Good morning. It's JFK assassination researcher Richard Hooke, and I've done my main videos, but I just wanted to get in one more to do a little review of this movie produced by Tom Hanks called Parkland, uh, just to get it on the record as what my reaction is to that movie. So I watched it again a couple of times yesterday and made some notes here. I'm just going to go over them. Hopefully some truth will come out of this. Okay, so it's the movie that called Parkland. It was made in 2013 by Walleye Productions, LLC, written and directed by Peter Landsman, produced by Tom Hanks, with historical advisor Hugh Ainsworth. Based on the book 4 Days in November, which was written by Vincent Bugliosi, which is just based on the official account of events. So, I mean, this is what we're dealing with here in this movie, Parkland. It's just supporting the official version. It's incredible that they'd still be doing this after all this time. I mean, really, in 2013, we had the Oswald Innocence Campaign on November 22nd in Santa Barbara with proof all over the walls that Oswald didn't do it. And Hollywood, just a few miles down the road, was making this production to support the official version of events in 2013. It still supports. That's a very expensive and involved attempt, again by Hollywood, the propaganda Deepstate, to reinforce the Warren Commission official narrative that Lee Oswald was a lone nut who shot President Kennedy with 3 shots from the TSBD and also killed police officer J.D. Tippit. That's what they say in the movie countless times. So that's the view that movie is supporting, Parkland. Now, the movie's good, actually. I mean, it's very interesting. It does have a lot in there. And the actors, the performances that I liked the best were Billy Bob Thornton as Secret Service agent Forrest Sorrells was an excellent job. Okay, Zac Efron as Dr. Charles Carrico did a very fine job. Zac Efron, and I didn't jot down her name, but the lady who played Oswald's mother, Marguerite Oswald, also did a very good job. Those are the ones that stuck in my mind. Now, first of all, what people need to understand about Parkland is the hospital was put in a lockdown situation. Okay, no reporters or film or photographs were allowed when JFK was there. That's what you have to realize. We don't have any Zapruder film or Nix film of the Parkland action. Okay, nobody was allowed in or out other than who the Secret Service wanted to be there. They were guarding the doors. Okay. You can hear my cat or my son's cat in the distance here. And what it was with the hospital personnel afterward were warned in no uncertain terms to never speak of what happened at Parkland that day. All of the hospital personnel wrote up their own accounts of what they saw, but most of it were marked top secret and not released to the public until decades later. Okay? Over the years, some books began to be written by people who were involved in the events. And actually, Rachel White and myself wrote an account. Rachel took the lead on it, and I think it's one of the best. It's called Deepstate Hustle at Parkland Hospital. And it's posted for free on our Facebook groups. People should give it a read. It's also in our book, The Killer Queen. So when researching Parkland Hospital, 3 of the best books that I found are Trauma Room 1 by Dr. Crenshaw, At the Door of Memory by Aubrey Reich, who was a funeral attendant who was there the whole time. And this one really gets you in there. This gets you in there and tells you what was really going on. And in most respects, it wasn't like this movie Parkland shows, okay? And then this one here's pretty good too. We Were There. It's the account of all the doctor's accounts are in here. Okay, those three. Now in Rachel and my paper that we wrote, we based it on those 3 books plus 20 other books listed at the back of our paper. So our account, I feel, is more accurate than this movie Parkland. But anyway, those are your sources if you want to research what really went down. And I also recommend watching this movie too. So let's see. Okay, so now I'm just going to go through some parts of the movie that stuck in my mind. It doesn't cover everything, but these were my reactions of things that stood out that were either not correct or I felt worth commenting on. Okay, now the movie, so it starts out showing Abraham Zapruder filming the assassination from the pergola pedestal, but it doesn't show the shoot. It doesn't show the shooting at all. Okay, and Zapruder's secretary is not up on the pedestal holding him steady like we know she was, and the supposed 3 shots sound like 3 little pops. Like from a silencer or something. You can hardly even hear them. Just 3 little clicks. I mean, when the truth is they were resounding rifle shots, and Jackie's pistol was a firecracker like crack. Basically at the same time, or 1/18 of a second later, came James Files' boom from his powerful rifle behind the picket fence. They weren't little silencer clicks, Tom Hanks. That's not the way it was, okay? And it weren't just 3 of them, but that's what you have is click, click, click. Okay, so when the limousine arrives at Parkland, it shows Jackie covered with blood in the back seat of the limo, which is correct, okay? Although we don't have pictures of it, but which is correct. And it shows her distraught and crying all over the place. When we know she didn't cry at all that day. There's no reports at all of that. So, but that's what it shows when the limousine pulled in. Okay. None of JFK's wounds are ever shown in the movie. Just a whole lot of blood. So they don't show the wounds at all. You don't ever get to see them. Okay. And again, they show blood all over the place. And actually not seeing JFK's wounds too much was the way it was for a lot of the doctors, because JFK was on his back in the interior of Trauma Room 1, laying there for viewing only about 20 minutes while they were making an effort that was in vain to try and revive or save him, but he was basically already dead. But it was only 20 minutes pretty much when he got in there, about at 12:40 and declared dead at 1 o'clock, which at that point at 1 o'clock, they wrapped his head in gauze. So then it was all over. You weren't going to see anything at that point anyway. So it was only 20 minutes. He was in the room on his back, his head back in the room with a few doctors there leering over his head like Dr. McClellan. So not many people could see what was going on with the true nature of the wounds. They never even flipped him over, didn't see the back wound. And they put a tracheostomy in the throat entry wound that Dr. Crenshaw saw before they put that in there, and it was a little round entry hole. But that was put in the throat wound, so that obstructed that. Okay. The movie, once again, it shows Jackie upset down on the floor in Trauma Room 1 praying. Now, nobody has that written up anywhere. It never happened. And the movie does not show O'Neill's funeral home attendants, Aubrey Reich and Dennis McGuire, at all, who were at Parkland the whole time and met Jackie when she arrived and sat on chairs with her and smoked cigarettes with Jackie just outside of Trauma Room 1. I mean, I don't know what she was doing smoking cigarettes with the funeral attendants, but see, this whole thing about the funeral attendants, which is in this book, and I really recommend it, is really, I mean, really revealing, actually, because they were at the hospital before JFK was even there, okay? Now, what it was there was a guy who faked an epileptic fit by Houston and Main and Dealey Plaza, and Reich and McGuire were in their ambulance just a few blocks away. They rushed and picked up Belknap, faking this epileptic fit, and took him to Parkland and got there a few minutes before JFK. So the guys that worked for the company that supplied the bronze casket were already on the site. So it was already planned ahead of time that JFK was going to be hustled out of Dallas before he was even shot. The company that had the bronze casket, the two guys were already there that were going to help out. The casket wasn't there yet because their boss, Mr. O'Neill, brought it in later. But Reich and McGuire were already there, right on hand, to meet and talk with Jackie immediately right outside Trauma Room 1. Okay? In the movie, also, the movie never mentions Jack Ruby. Other than towards the end, it shows Ruby shooting Oswald, but it doesn't talk about Ruby at all. And now, admittedly, the movie's just a slice, a particular view of the assassination, but I don't really believe you can do any honest depiction of the JFK assassination without showing Carousel Club owner, strip club owner Jack Ruby, who now we know was CIA, FBI, and Mossad connected, mafia connected, and almost knew all of the Dallas police force. Okay? I mean, Ruby was the guy having meetings in his Carousel Club the week before, planning the assassination, managing the patsy, Oswald, who was his close friend since he was a little boy. Ruby dropped a shooter at the knoll at 11 a.m. that morning. During the shooting and right afterward, he's orchestrating everything by Houston and Elm and Dealey Plaza. We have pictures of him. He was checking to the damage on JFK at Parkland. He was reported seen there too. This guy was everywhere. Okay. Then he was over at the Texas Theater pointing out Oswald to the police in the ground floor. And he's also seen later that afternoon on the third floor of the Dallas police station. Okay, in short, Jack Ruby was the main man on the ground for the conspirators that day. So honestly, Tom Hanks, you can't even produce a slice of the JFK assassination without showing Jack Rubenstein. You just can't do it, okay? You did it, but it's a glaring omission, okay? He was the main connector to all connector of all the events. One thing that was really interesting was the movie shows Robert Oswald, Oswald's brother, who I didn't know this. He was working at his desk when the assassination happened at the Acme Brick Company in suburban Dallas. That's Acme Brick, the same company that left all these stacks of bricks in 2020 at all the Antifa riot that's owned by Bill Gates, who's on the board. But Robert Oswald worked for Acme Brick, and he was there. And that's in the movie. That's interesting. Now, the movie shows the Secret Service rushing and acting scared. They're rushing LBJ over to Love Field. We all know was a huge acting job, pretending that there was some anonymous enemy, Russia or Cuba, lurking close by, when the reality was the Secret Service and LBJ were conspirators and in on the assassination. So this was all a big act with LBJ. The movie shows the Secret Service and FBI watching the Zapruder film for the first time, but still doesn't hardly show the film, okay? It just shows a reflection of a few frames of the film in Zapruder's glasses as he's watching it. It's bizarre. I mean, we need to show the Zapruder film in detail to show a depiction of the assassination. I mean, that's what we need to do. We can't just leave it out, which is what is done in this Parkland movie. Honestly, Tom Hanks, how can you make any film about the assassination without a good enhanced showing of the Zapruder film? The one complete depiction we have of JFK being shot. Okay? The movie shows Jackie in Trauma Room 1, her wedding ring, putting her wedding ring on JFK's left hand. But it doesn't show Aubrey Reich, the funeral attendant, helping her force it on with KY jelly out of the cabinet, which is what happened because they had to get that ring on there because Jackie wanted them to be able to tell JFK's corpse from Tippit when they were loaded in one box, naked in one box, packed onto Air Force Two. So they had to get that ring onto his left hand, but it just shows Jackie putting the left hand, her wedding ring on JFK's left hand gently. Okay. Yeah, actually, they were loaded in one box on AF2. Well, LBJ was sworn in on Air Force One when the windows were rolled down, and the bronze casket in the back of Air Force One, which was loaded up in the plane, so nobody could go back and take a look at what was inside. They had to guard it, but the bronze casket was empty. Okay. Okay, now the movie does not show the Jesuit priest, Father Oscar Huber, asking everyone to leave Trauma Room 1 so Jackie could be alone with her husband, because that's what happened. That's in these books, and Rachel we have it in our paper. But the movie doesn't show it. As we all know, when Jackie, well, Rachel White and I believe that's when Jackie changed into a second pink suit, when she was let to be alone. We don't even know what was going on in Trauma Room 1. Well, Jackie was alone in there before they left. But we believe she changed into a clean pink suit because for the swearing in with LBJ, the coat's completely clean. When even in the Parkland movie, all through it, they show the coat completely covered with JFK's blood all over it. And that couldn't have been wiped off. I mean, the suit was like little knotted wool, the pink suit. It was stained with blood all over it, okay? As the original suit had to be destroyed because it had deadly shellfish toxin mixed in the blood, spattered on the front from Secret Service agent Greer's toxin shot to JFK's left temple. At Parkland, when Secret Service agent Kellerman was arguing with the coroner, Dr. Rose, the movie shows Dr. Rose looking in the bronze casket to verify JFK was in there. That's what the movie shows. But Rose didn't actually do that. It was not reported by anyone that Rose looked in the casket. As we know that Dr. Rose's loud argument out in the corridor with Secret Service agent Kellerman was a ruse, a loud argument distraction, while JFK was lifted back out of the bronze casket and hidden under a sheet in a nearby treatment booth, which had been reserved by the phony epileptic Jerry Belknap, who was an employee of the Dallas Morning News, where Hugh Ainsworth worked. It was a CIA asset. And Belknap was brought to Parkland by Aubrey Reich and Dennis McGuire before JFK was even shot, and put in treatment booth 8 next to Trauma Room 1 to reserve a treatment booth that JFK could be hidden in for a short time after he was pulled back out of the bronze casket, is what Rachel White and I have surmised. Okay, in the movie, the bullet is never shown that was lodged by his ear and fell out on the stretcher. That bullet that was noticed by Nurse Phyllis Hall and then subsequently found on JFK's first stretcher over by the men's room. And they said it was a magic bullet. It was swapped later out for a Carcano bullet, but it was a small pointed tip short range bullet that fell out on the stretcher. Now, that's never shown at all. The movie shows Admiral Berkeley and Jackie crying with the Secret Service agents in O'Neill's funeral home ambulance on the way to Love Field, which never happened, as there's not one single account of Jackie crying on November 22nd, 1963. So Jackie, Admiral Berkeley, which was the president's, Navy Admiral Berkeley, the president's physician, and the Secret Service were determined to have JFK autopsied at Bethesda Naval Hospital back east, where Admiral Berkeley was in charge of the whole hospital. It was a military hospital, and that's where they wanted the autopsy to be. So that's why they broke the law and hustled JFK out of Texas for the autopsy, because they had to do it at a military hospital that Admiral Berkeley, controlled the whole hospital, which was Bethesda. The actress who played Oswald's mother, as I mentioned, Marguerite, did a fine job. As she said, she always knew Lee was a CIA secret agent sent undercover into the Soviet Union and had gone way beyond the call with his covert assignments he had completed for the U.S. government. After Oswald was shot on Sunday, 11/24/63, by Jack Ruby, the movie shows Secret Service agent Forrest Sorrells at Parkland asking the Parkland doctors to get a confession out of Oswald. But we know that never really happened, as what happened was LBJ called Parkland and tried to order Dr. Crenshaw to get a confession out of Oswald before he died, which is in Dr. Crenshaw's book, Trauma Room 1. Needless to say, Dr. Crenshaw never did that for LBJ, never did anything of the sort. I mean, he was concerned with trying to save Oswald, and he wasn't going to hassle him for LBJ. So anyway, that was the last thing I noticed. So I hope you can maybe think about these points that I've said and read Rachel and my article on Facebook. We have it there for free, Deep State Hustle at Parkland Hospital. And think about these things, and I hope this will cause some more truth to emerge. It's not quite like they showed in Tom Hanks' movie Parkland. So just wanted to let you know that. JFK researchers, Richard Hooke signing off.